Hi guys, this is Steven again, and today I'm gonna make a video entirely dedicated to Zelda Skyward Sword. It's not gonna be the most exciting visual video you'll see, but I just completed the game about 10 minutes ago and I really wanted to give out my impressions on it. First off, I need to clarify that I've never been a big fan of motion controls. I have a Wii since launch, but I really rarely play it, and I always kind of dissed motion gaming, and I always thought that it could potentially ruin gaming itself, because I always thought that motion control, the way it was used before this game, was simply to replace button presses, and I thought it made things more complicated instead of making them more fun and more practical. Anyway, this game totally changed my mind on the subject. I still don't get me wrong, I still like my regular games, no doubt, but I don't think I want to play an action adventure game now without this thing. It's simply, man, I don't know what changed me here. When I began the game, I was certain I wasn't gonna change my view on the subject. I thought that everybody was crazy, and when I started, like I said, the first few hours of the game, I was having fun, but I still wasn't on board. I thought that there was too much motion controls. Everything now is done in motion controls, and at first it bugged me, and the motion controls themselves, they weren't that tight, I found, especially flying and when you're hovering with Link and parachuting and throwing bombs. When you roll bombs, I thought that it was not as well done as it could have been. But as I played along, man, I'd say now, it took me 50 hours to complete the game, a little bit more than that, and I completely changed everything. I like everything, even the bomb rolling now. The technique, once you learn the technique, it's so easy to do. I do admit there is a bit too much, like everything, like when you pick up a pot, you have to wiggle the remote just to throw it and stuff like that, that I don't think is really necessary, but still, it's so much fun, especially the weapons. Every single weapon in the game is motion controlled, every single one, and they're so much more fun to do so than with button presses. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's easier and more accurate, although in some cases it is more accurate, but it's simply more fun to do so. Especially like the beetle. The beetle is a new favorite weapon of mine, and the whip too. And I hope I'm not spoiling anything. Really, it's not really much spoilers here. It's just some weapons. And man, it's just so much fun to play with these motion controls. Even the flying part. Although there is a little small things here and there that the Wiimote will not act like it used to. It's very rare in cases, but it does happen. Like when you're flying, sometimes you'll flick your wrist to go a certain way, and the bird will not want to go that way, and will kind of freeze and go the other way. It happened to me a few times, and you'll have to recenter your Wii control like every time in the game, but it's really easy. You just press the D-pad down, and it's not really an issue. And the gameplay itself, it's really fun. There is only like three areas in the game, and again, this is not spoilers, but it's a very known fact. So you have to travel back a lot and go visit like earlier areas. So it can get a bit repetitive, but for me it wasn't an issue. For some, I'm pretty sure it will be. But man, the dungeons are so much fun in this game. They made the physical dungeons shorter, but the length it actually takes to complete them, it's pretty much the same. I found that they took me almost every dungeon took me at least 2 hours to complete. It will depend. Some people will go through them way faster than me, but like I said, the puzzles in this game, like are they keep this general Zelda tradition, but in a way they feel new because you won't push any blocks here, you won't light any torches. There's nothing like that in here. It's all new puzzles, but in a very Zelda way. And a lot of them, they took me some time to figure out, but you always figure out because there's one rule in this game that I really like. If you're in a room, you can continue. There's no like you go in a room and you say, oh, you realize that you need a certain weapon to do. No, there's nothing like that. Once you're in a room in a dungeon, if you see a problem, if you persevere, you're gonna figure it out because you always have all the tools necessary to move along. At least that's what I found. So I really like that aspect. Another thing I also like is that the dungeons are now incorporated out of the dungeons. It's kind of hard to explain, but what I mean by that is that when you play the regular game, you're gonna find stuff and puzzles that you would normally see only in dungeons in other Zelda games. So it really makes, like, for me, the other Zelda games, I really adored the dungeons, but especially in Twilight Princess, I didn't really like what you needed to do in between dungeons to get there. I found it very boring, and in this case, I had almost as much fun during the fetch quests and during the side quests and getting from one dungeon to the other dungeon. Really, it's fantastic. Seriously, it's Zelda. So I know that many critics said that Zelda is following the same formula, and I found it very strange. It is still kind of similar, but for me, this is a whole new Zelda, man. It's so different than the other Zeldas, so I can't really agree with the critics on that one. So yeah, and bosses too. The bosses are pretty fun. There are a few though that I found are not as memorable as other Zelda games, but for most cases, the bosses are amazing. The dude that you see in all the video, I always forget his name. It's something like Girarium or a weird name. Is really a nice villain, really interesting, and I really liked it. The boss battles with that dude are fun, and the final boss battle too. I won't spoil it, but it's pretty epic, and I like the scenery and everything. So overall, the gameplay in this Zelda is fantastic. Really recommend it. It's fresh, and man, it changed my view on motion control. It's gonna be hard to play another console Zelda without this control, and especially since the jump from Twilight Princess, which was not originally meant to be played with the Wiimote, to this is fantastic. So I just cannot imagine what Nintendo could do with another motion control Zelda. So that's it for gameplay. As for next, I'm gonna talk a bit about the graphics. I don't want to piss off the fanboys here, but it's perhaps the only con I have with the game. Like the graphics, they really show its age. Especially if you're like me, you're used to playing games on the Xbox 360 or the PS3 or HD gaming. When you go the first few hours you spend with that game, for me it was like it wasn't like bothering me that much, but I could see that the game was ugly, like that you could see the really low res textures. But again, after about like 20 hours, 30 hours, I was really digging the look. Like this is the perfect look for a Zelda game. When I first saw Skyward Sword at E3, it was actually the first E3 that I ever attended, and the only one so far. I was kind of disappointed that they were going back not to the Wind Waker style graphics, but they did the Twilight Princess more dark graphics, and they went to a more cartoony. But really, this is how Zelda is supposed to be. This is what Zelda was on the original NES, on the Super NES. This is what it always was meant to look like. It's the perfect mix between cartoony and mature-looking graphics. Really, it's perfect. The facial expressions in this game are spot on. They've never been any better. So I really, really like the artistic style. It's the best looking Zelda I've ever played. It's just a bit too bad that the Wii cannot do HD graphics. Because of that, it's kind of show its age, but once you're deep in the game, you won't notice anymore. I'm telling you, I didn't notice at the end, and I was really amazed by the visuals, even though they're outdated. Next, the sound you might be hearing. I'm currently playing the the orchestrated CD that comes with the game in the background, and this music is simply fantastic. It's the first time they ever use orchestrated music in a Zelda game, and well, I think it is. I might be wrong on that, but really, it's fantastic. Nothing to add there. I would have liked voice acting. I've always been a big defender of that subject. I want voice acting to be in Zelda. Make Link silent. I don't care, because as you see in this game, like you hear the Zelda doesn't speak, but you hear her sing in many occasions, and I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. I don't see why people are afraid that Zelda will sound ridiculous if they give her a voice. This was it's perfect when she was singing. So, but then again, I wasn't distracted by reading, because they did a very smart choice in this game. There's not that much text to read. There is like the story. I'll get to that in the next part. There's still a lot of story, but I find that the story is told more towards the visuals, towards the reactions of the characters and the villains and all that. There's some text to explain what they're doing, what they're saying, but the story is told a lot more through facial and through the visuals, and I like that. I really like it when they don't try to force the story into our minds and all that. They just let it play. That was perfect. So I really like that. But voice acting, I'd like them to give it a shot in the next Zelda game. I'm pretty sure it won't happen, but I think this is the next level. The next level for Zelda, I think, is HD visuals and voice acting. Next up, the storyline, man. The storyline is the best I've seen since A Link to the Past. It's one of my favorite storylines in a video game, period. I really liked it. You finally get to see the relationship between Link and Zelda to a point you've never seen before. I don't want to spoil anything, but the storyline, the characters, the towns, well, there is basically one town, but still every character in that town, they will grow on you. And there's still that classic Zelda humor that only like a few can, only the hardcore I find can really connect with. But I really like Zelda humor, and it always cracks a laugh in me with simple things that just make you feel happy. And man, that's it. The storyline is just really, it's top notch. I cannot like it more. The only thing that bugs me about this game, it's a classic Zelda thing. They like to repeat themselves over and over and over again. There was a few parts, like at the beginning of the game, you'll have an instance when you need to fall down and land in the center, and some will get it first try, second try. It took me like 15 or 20 tries, because at the beginning I had a lot of problems with the motion controls. I wasn't good at it. And every single time you miss, you have to restart, and every single time Zelda would retell you the instructions on how to do it. It's so annoying. Nintendo always does that in their Zelda games. If you fall down in the towns, there's a guard that will catch you and bring you back, and every single time it happens, and it will happen a lot. It did to me. The guards will repeat to you the same exact thing. It's like, come on, man, we know it's been done over 100 times before. And there's also the fact that Fi, the new navy in this, is so, like, you'll go to a place, you know you have to go there, you know it's in your map, you just beat a boss or you just beat something, you're right there, and she'll tell you, wow, she'll tell you something like, alright, there's a 90% chance that what you're looking for is in this room. Well, duh, Captain Obvious, we know that. That's why we just did the whole dungeon. You don't need to tell us that. And she will always tell you, like, everything. The game doesn't hold you by your hand. They don't tell you much. You have to figure out almost everything by yourself. There's a hint system in place in case you can't, but the game for that is very good. But it's very annoying that Fi is always there and repeating herself, and like, there's too much information there. When the storyline, they did it perfectly, but with that, there's a little bit too much information. I don't know if I can make myself clear on that, but that's what I found. That's pretty much the only complaint I have about the game. As for a final score, I'm not gonna give it a score, but I believe I don't think a game can ever be perfect, but like with the game, this game has received a lot of perfect scores all over the board. And I agree with that score. I don't I don't see how a game like this doesn't deserve a perfect score. It's one of a kind. It it brought me hope in motion control. It made me believe in it, and this is my favorite 3D Zelda yet. So there it is. I don't wanna. I think I'm rambling a bit too much here. So that was my impression of the game. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too boring to watch. And I'm telling you all, give this game a try if you like Zelda game or adventure games. This is a must buy. Alright, thank you for watching or listening, and see you in the next video.